This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
I don't have anything funny to say to start us off today. Welcome to the Horror Fried Podcast. That's Michael Combs.
And we have Mike Martin over there.
And that's our favorite comedian, Keith Clanton.
Hello, how's your mama Nan? Thanks for joining us today. We are reviewing the 12th film in our Southern Horror series. As you know, the full list of this season's movies are posted on Instagram at the Horror Fried Podcast. Be sure to check those out and watch right along with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts too. Now comes to the spell. Let's talk about Antebellum. Released in 2020, Antebellum follows successful author Veronica Hensley as she finds herself trapped in a horrifying reality and must uncover the mind-bending mystery before it's too late. Written and directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Reno, Antebellum stars the beautiful Janelle Monáe, Eric Lange, Jena Malone, Jack Houston, and our favorite Gabourey Sidibe. Michael.
Yes.
Kick us off.
Okay. So our movie starts off on a slave plantation run by Confederate soldiers. We see that some slaves have tried to escape, and a slave named Eli watches as his wife is shot and killed by the soldiers. Another slave that tried to help them escape is beaten by her owner, and we find out that her name is Eden. The next day, a new group of slaves is brought to the plantation, including a pregnant girl that befriends Eden. Her name is Julia. That evening, the general has come back to the plantation, and a large celebratory dinner is being served. The female slaves are forced to stand in the dining room hall and are informed the soldiers can do with them whatever they want. A soldier decides to meet Julia in her cabin, and when she speaks out of turn, is beaten by the soldier, including kicking her in the stomach. The next morning, Julia is late to pick cotton and shows up sick. She then starts to bleed, indicating a miscarriage. Eden helps her to her cabin. The next day, Julia doesn't show up to pick cotton and is found that she has hanged herself in her cabin.
That was a lot of info.
Was it? Was it too much?
That was a lot of information.
Well, I like that this movie actually has 3 acts.
It does.
Unlike the last 2 movies.
It does. It's very...
That was literally like 40 minutes, and
I fell asleep. Okay, so let me just say this. And this is kind of a theme throughout the movie. This movie is very brutal, but it is beautifully shot. Beautifully shot. I can't talk. Beautifully shot. The colors are incredible. All the greens are so pretty. It's visually very appealing, and I would even say probably the prettiest movie we've watched so far. Like,
I would
overall,
say so.
It's just beautiful to watch. But yes, brutal.
I mean, it starts with isn't it like a long shot? Like the whole opening is like a long shot.
It might be.
That literally starts. You follow the girl through the front of the plantation, wraps around through the whole grounds, and it doesn't.
Oh, is it one shot?
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't really.
Like, I'm pretty sure it's one shot.
One continuous shot. I didn't know.
And it doesn't stop. Like, it doesn't cut until you see Eli.
So, and I almost feel like, too, obviously there's a big twist, which we can talk about, but I feel like you get your first hint in that very first scene. And it's her septum piercing. Because you think, then, that probably is not a common thing you would see. I'm not saying it wasn't a thing. But it wasn't common. And so to see that right off the bat, and obviously this is my second time watching. This was Michael's and Mike's first time watching this. This was my second viewing, so I knew what the twist was going to be. But knowing that, I picked up on a few things. That was one of them. Because I thought to myself, that septum piercing's kind of out of place, isn't it? And then I thought, maybe that's a hint.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things I wrote down. Is this a hint?
Well, I guess talking about hints, kind of like leading into this. The first time that I was just kind of watching it throughout the whole beginning, I was like, this movie is fucking terrible. Like, just how graphic it is. And I was sitting here and I would just get so mad. I don't deal well with watching these kind of movies.
Yeah.
So, like, but when Julia comes in, I was sitting here and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, she sounded
her dialect
very modern, like in the way that she talked. And that was when I was kind of like, that's weird. Like, what's happening?
That's hint number two, essentially. And then, I mean, I'll even go ahead and say hint number 3 is the scene where they're burning the cotton.
Yeah.
Because even Michael
was like, why are they burning the cotton?
And I was thinking to myself, because I don't need it. Like, they're, you know, so there's a lot of hints leading up, but they do a really good job of making you believe that this is in the past. And even, I mean, we'll get to, you know, the second act later, but when Janelle Monáe, Veronica, is that her name? Veronica?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When Veronica wakes up, you still think, okay, well, so there's 2 different times happening here, and they're just playing 2. Like, that's what I thought the first time I saw it.
Well, they almost make you think it's a dream.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes. Yep.
Because
that's true.
She, like, gets up and goes, because I was waiting, because, you know, we see her get, like, branded, essentially, like, there in that one of those scenes. And when she gets up out of the bed, I was like, she was like kind of holding like her back and stuff, and I was waiting for them to like show the mark or something, and I was like, well, she didn't have anything on there. I was like, so okay,
so it does kind of make you think, okay, this isn't real. She's dreamed this. So and I thought, so yes, I thought despite like all the brutality, it was visually stunning. Like the landscapes, the sunsets, even like all the lighting is impeccable. And you know, they talk about the Confederate victory when they're at the dinner. They talk about the Confederate victory or whatever, and you hear all the gunshots and the blasts in the background. You know, you just think it's whatever. It's the war
during the Civil War.
Yeah, but of course later on, you know, you figure out it's not what it was. It was something else. But yeah, and the general is, I guess he's the general is what he is, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you know, the head honcho, but he talks about the ultimate victory. And to me, again, watching it, I think to myself, well, he wasn't talking about the war. He was talking about the victory of like white versus black, essentially. Because, and it's one of those movies I feel like discussing it, we're going to jump around a lot. But I did mention this to Michael last night when we were watching it. I said, you know, it's like they're trying to prove some sort of point because they are abducting these high-profile, successful black men and women.
Yeah.
And kidnapping them and bringing them to their fucked up plantation. So it's almost like they're trying to prove their point or something. But anyway, and then you mentioned that you thought one of the clues was when Eli...
Yeah, he calls him a cracker. And I'm like, I don't think that was probably a term back then.
Right.
All I know is Eli could call me whatever he wanted. He was fine. He is so cute. Anyways.
Could be, like Dawn says later in the movie, it's like that... perfect dark chocolate. It's like, what, 74% cacao? Chef's kiss.
I'm not surprised that you remember that line verbatim.
Yeah.
When we were watching it, I was like, oh my God, Mike is going to eat this bitch up.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, we are not even close to Horror Fried Theater, but it's probably the scene of the 3 of them in the car or in the restaurant. Like, I just have a feeling.
I mean, I cannot confirm nor deny.
Okay, well.
But, yeah, I don't want to, like, get too ahead of that because I still feel like there's a lot going on in this first part. But, like, because we didn't even talk about the fucker that is Jasper.
Oh.
Because as soon as he came on the screen, I was just like...
He looks like an asshole.
He does. And I was already anxiously awaiting. This time, of course, I didn't even know what the twist was yet.
Yeah.
But I was just... I can't wait for him to get his. And I know it's coming, but I couldn't wait.
Oh, see, I felt the same way, but it was about that stupid bitch Jena Malone.
Because
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sorry, girl, but I don't really care for her work anyways. And just to see her in this role, like, made me dislike her even more. Her fake ass bullshit later on. So obviously I wanted everybody to get theirs, but, like, specifically that twat.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, and I know, like, we haven't talked about, like, Veronica as much as we've talked about Eden.
Yeah.
But, like, we obviously see a lot more of Jena Malone.
Yes.
Later.
With Veronica.
Yes. And I couldn't stand her even then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but, and I don't know if you noticed, like, or picked up on any of this, but, like, did you notice that, like, they focused a lot on, like lipstick and mouths and, like, lips and stuff?
I actually was going to make a comment about that, but I'm going to save it for later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so do I not need to talk about this now?
I mean, whatever. I just feel like you notice it more in the second act than you do the first.
Well, I just noticed it, like, obviously, yes. So you're talking about the second act, which I feel like now we're probably talking about the same scene. But because I thought it was weird when they show Veronica talking her little interview thing on Zoom or whatever, and they make it a point to show her, like, wiping it off and, like, all this stuff, and I was like,
well, she wiped it off
because of what Elizabeth said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes. So before we get too far into that, another thing I wanted to mention about, especially that first part of the movie, when Eli goes to clean, I mean, I don't even know what you call that. It's like their shed where they burn dead bodies.
I call it a crematorium.
Yeah, that's what I...
Well, he called it the shed.
He did call it a shed, but it's a crematorium. So you
don't realize it's a crematorium until he actually goes in there and finds that necklace, you know.
Who was his wife.
Who was his wife, yeah. And it's heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And he has a moment in there. But I will say there's the scene... It's that scene, but whenever, like, the camera is, like... it's going away from him. And it comes, like, out the door. And I just thought it was a really cool contrast of, like, the darkness of the shed. And then it was so bright outside. Mm-hmm. And you've got the beautiful sky and the greenery. And it was just really well done. And I even mentioned that at one point. I feel like they do a lot of shots like that. Like, through a window or through a door. And I just thought I really enjoyed that personally. Like, visually, it was really pretty.
So obviously we're very anxious to get to the second half of the movie. So with that, after being raped by the general, Eden hears a cell phone. We then go to Eden in bed with her husband in a modern day apartment. She answers the phone and we find out Eden is actually a renowned sociologist, Dr. Veronica Henley. Dr. Veronica does public appearances on news stations and has written a book and is going on a book tour. Before she leaves for her trip, she gets a very weird video call from a woman named Elizabeth. She then leaves for Louisiana to promote her book. As she says goodbye and departs from her dinner, she gets in what she thinks is her Uber. We find out it isn't her Uber and that Elizabeth is driving the car. Elizabeth's husband knocks Dr. Veronica out cold. She then awakens on the plantation with her new name, Eden. We then discover that this movie is a remake of The Village.
I'd say it's better than The Village. I like The Village a lot, but I think it's better than The Village.
Oh, it definitely is better than The Village.
Well, you know I don't like The Village. So
I don't like The Village either.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I do have that down in my notes. I was like, oh, so this is basically like The Village meets The Color Purple.
Yes.
Like that was kind of like where I was going in my head with it before I realized what this like kind of twisty thing was. But because I'm not a fan of The Village. I never was.
I'm with you. I'm not a fan either.
It's my favorite movie of his.
Oh, I think Signs is mine. But.
See, and I loved The Sixth Sense. I mean, I know that The Sixth Sense is like cliche, but I did love it. It's a good one.
Yeah. I think The Happening's probably my favorite. I'm just kidding.
God. I can tell by how many plants you have in here.
I don't get it.
Because that was the whole point of... You know what? That's not this episode. We're not talking about The Happening.
It's been a long time. I don't care for that that movie. I don't know anything about it.
But yeah, so with this whole thing, now we can kind of talk a little bit about, so what was your...
Oh, the lips?
Yeah.
It wasn't really anything profound. I just said that Janelle Monáe's skin is flawless and I could watch her wipe lipstick off of her mouth all day long.
Well, see, I kind of took it as like, I felt like Elizabeth obviously like...
Oh, she sparked something.
Yeah.
She said, well, here's the thing. I feel like Elizabeth is very much one of those, oh, bless your heart women. You know what I mean? She will say something, but it's almost like a backwards compliment.
Yeah.
Like she's going to give you a compliment, but there's a little sting to it. Like with the lipstick. Oh, I love that shade on you. It looks great with your skin tone. I can never pull anything like that off. Okay, we get it, bitch. We get it. You MAGA cunt.
I mean, she's also going to talk super condescending to anybody, any person of color. So,
yes.
And it's like all of that stuff just like crawls all over me when I watch movies like this. Cause I'm just like, those people exist. Like I know that the twist and everything is, I mean, obviously made for a movie. It's dramatic, blah, 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 blah.
It's far-fetched, but don't think there are not people around the South
that are like
still feel that way.
Well, in Murfreesboro, they have like Civil War reenactments down there at Stones River Battlefield. And when like they were doing that, I was just like, that's immediately where I went. And then I started thinking, I was like, why do people do that? Like, what is the allure to it?
I don't know.
I'm not Southern, so I wouldn't.
I don't know.
Well, makes a difference to me.
I guess the same reason I used to pretend I was Cher Horowitz from Clueless all the time.
It was passion.
Yeah, it was passion. But yeah, I don't get that either. And now that you mention it, all these gunshots and stuff that you hear that you think are the war in the beginning, obviously you realize, okay, so where are these coming from? And then you find out later that it's a reenactment park, or I don't know what they call it, a park, I guess. And they reenact, and you see people that are going there to like watch these reenactments, and it makes me think, I mean, how many people are in on this? Because you think even when they're there, there's a lot of people there.
It'd be hard. I feel like it'd be hard to hide.
It's not just a family. I mean, it's it's a lot of people. But anyways, we're getting too far.
Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We won't talk about that yet.
I'm sorry. Michael made a good point last night when we were watching it. Elizabeth has a lapel pin on, and it's the BD, which you find out later what that means, but it's also what was branded on Veronica. I'm sorry, I'm going to just call her Veronica.
We can call her Veronica. Veronica and Eden are the same person.
I'm not going to call her that other name because that was not her chosen. What'd you think of Gabby?
I like Gabby.
Yeah.
I mean, she was fun, little comic relief.
She was.
To break up the seriousness of this horror movie.
I loved her.
I do know.
Dawn.
I think my favorite part, though, was when after Janelle Monáe gives her speech, and I guess she's talking to maybe a promoter of this convention that she's at, and Gabby comes up and she's like, "Oh, hey girl, so good to see you. Okay, it's time to go." And the woman's like, "Well," and she's like, No, we have to go." She's pulling her away because she's like, "I just saved your ass," because she would have been talking. I liked that. I thought that was really funny.
I just thought that, I mean, pretty much the whole time she was in the movie was hysterical.
Yeah,
but
she was great.
When that scene in particular, though, did make me laugh because I was like, man, I totally relate. When Janelle was saying the thing about, she's like, "Oh, no, I have a date with my king-size bed. Thank you." When she was talking about not going out.
I did love that.
I thought it was just funny. I feel like that's how we are nowadays.
Oh, it's totally. She said they were going to go do ho-tivities because she is trying to fuck tonight. Yeah. And isn't she supposed to be a relationship expert? Isn't that
yes.
She says, I just thought that was so funny. I was like, girl, get you some. I loved the whole... So, obviously, there's a theme here. And whenever Veronica goes to make her reservation, the little white girl,
Is a bitch.
at the desk is a total bitch to her, and ignores her at first. Gets the reservation, and when they go, their table is like
in the corner somewhere.
in the corner, like kind of probably close to the kitchen where the wait staff dropped their dishes. And that Gabby was not having it. And I almost feel like if she wouldn't have said anything, Veronica and
Would've
the
sat
other
there.
friend probably would have just sat down, and been like, whatever it is, what it is. But, Gabby was not having it.
I just loved it because, like, she was sitting there when they walk up and she's like, I know that you're trying real hard, Becky, but...
Yeah. Oh my God, that was funny. So yeah, Becky, whatever, and then she turns around and she's like, "This table looks great. We're gonna sit here." Like, I wish I was that confident.
I wouldn't
in
have the
life.
balls to do that.
God, like seriously, because I'm very much one of those people. Like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever, it's fine. No, bitch, I want a booth.
Yeah.
Like, and then so. We see the little girl in the elevator. So I'm just curious as a first-time viewer, like, what did you think of the little girl in the elevator? Did you think that was real, or did you think maybe she was just visioning this? Because the little girl has the doll. She's got a little...
Black
it's like a
doll.
black rag doll, and she's dragging
Bring it
it,
behind
essentially,
her.
which is what we saw at the beginning. They drag Eli's wife's body with the horse. So I was just curious, like, if you guys thought that was
I
real.
don't know what I thought that was.
Because even the little girl she's very pale.
Yeah.
It's,
She kind of looks ghostly.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's why I was curious.
I mean, I thought if something was weird. I don't know that I necessarily thought she was dead because I was already confused as to why. Like, did we know that was like Elizabeth in her room? We knew that, right?
Yeah. I think it doesn't really show her, but I think it's insinuated, right?
No, it shows her.
Does it show
Does
her in
it?
the room?
She comes in. I'm
Takes a
like, this
piss?
has to... No, I said she took a shit in her toilet and put on
Something.
her lipstick on her snaggletooth.
Well, she took the lipstick. We know
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Because she starts knocking her papers off the counter, and that's when you know it's Elizabeth for sure.
And doesn't she like leave like her hair and stuff in the bed or something?
That I don't remember.
I felt like there was
remember
like
that.
where she's like sitting on the edge of the bed. I thought there was like, you know what? Maybe I'm just
She was very
imagining this whole
intrusive,
thing.
whatever.
But yeah, very intrusive. We'll just go with that.
Yes.
I can't believe that maid let her in. It's that easy. That's scary.
Well, so one of the things that like I looked up after the fact. So I've already watched the movie at this point.
Yeah.
But like one of the things, and I'm curious if you picked up on it since you've actually seen it, is that because there are certain things that I guess on a rewatch you can kind of pick up on. And one of the things I guess is at the restaurant, some of the people that are there at the restaurant are the people that are at the plantation.
Oh, I didn't
no,
notice
I
that
didn't.
at all.
Like some of the men that are in the background at the restaurant are some of the men that are...
No, but I will tell you when I watched it this second time and they're sitting in the restaurant, I thought to myself, they're being very, like, when she tried to make the reservation, they were being really nasty to her. And I thought, okay, well, let me look and see if I see any other black men or women in this restaurant. And I only saw one black man.
It was a black man sitting behind them.
And he was sitting nearby. And
The
then
rest
I
were
thought,
white
okay.
people.
Like, I was just curious if that would, you know what I mean? But
I caught that too.
But I didn't notice that they were like, the patrons at the restaurant were like.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, I wouldn't have paid attention to it watching it because I didn't even...
I'm sure I'll watch it again. I'll pay attention.
Yeah, because I'm curious who we see because I haven't watched it again to know, but surely it wouldn't be anybody that you'd recognize, I think. Because
Yeah.
you're not going to have Jasper up in the back. We obviously know who that is.
Right. Like
So-
maybe just some of like the people in the background that, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
What did you think about the flowers?
When
the
they
note on
brought
the
in, I said
flowers.
something to you. I'm like, cotton? That's a weird choice to
did.
put in a bouquet.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like that's very common.
And then what was the note? Said
It
something about
said,
like homecoming.
Looking forward to your homecoming.
Yeah. X. Wasn't it X?
And she thought it was from her husband,
Yeah.
which I totally understand because he was eager to have her back home. So.
Right. I feel like this movie does a really good job of
confusing you.
Yeah, and I think the twist is, because some people really don't like this movie, and I really, really like it. But I feel like that they did a really good job with the twist. Because you kind of think, something's up.
They plant a few
you
seeds.
Just don't really get it
until
she wakes up in the bed hearing that cell phone, and you're like, holy shit, this is present day that I've been watching this whole time.
Yeah, they did a good job with
that. One other thing I wanted to point out, one of my favorite lines in the movie is when they're going to dinner and Janelle's character comes down and she's looking all fine, and Gabby says, girl, I said step it up, not murder these hoes. Because she look, I have too many notes in here about how beautiful Janelle Monáe is, how beautiful she was in the movie when she's speaking and she has that like wine colored like suit on and that smoky eye. Y'all, when I tell you, I'd like to have a night with Janelle Monáe. She's beautiful.
She is beautiful.
Beautiful. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about Janelle Monáe's looks for the rest. She's great in the movie, y'all. She's very talented, but sorry, I can't ignore the fact that she's
It's just funny to me that you just keep calling her Gabby.
Gabby? Gabourey Sidibe?
Yeah.
We go way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of calling her Dawn.
We talked about this last night. She's like, all of her friends call her Gabby. I'm going to call her Gabby. So. Yeah.
Oprah calls her Gabby. I'm going to call her Gabby.
So that brings us to the climax of our movie.
Oh.
Veronica and Eli decide to escape. They sneak out of their cabin to use the general's cell phone. They can't get a message out without using the general's facial recognition to open the phone. They make their way back to the cabin and get into a fight with the general, and Eli is killed. Eden wounds the general and opens the phone and calls her husband. Eden wounds the general and opens the phone and calls her husband. She then takes, this is my favorite part, she then takes the general into the crematorium and then tricks Elizabeth's husband and another guy to go in there, and she starts burning them alive. She escapes on horseback and is pursued by Elizabeth. Veronica overtakes Elizabeth and puts a noose around her neck and drags her behind her horse. Hitting her head on a Robert E. Lee memorial, she breaks her neck. Eden escapes through a Civil War reenactment as the FBI and police start raiding the plantation, which we find out is called Antebellum. And that's the end of the movie.
It was such a liberating, satisfying ending.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah, it was. And can I just tell you, I know we're skipping some stuff.
Right.
But when they were fighting, and I couldn't remember I knew that Elizabeth got hers, but I couldn't remember how. And when we were sitting there watching it, I thought, if you don't put that rope around her motherfucking neck and drag her ass along this fucking cotton field or wherever,
you're gonna be pissed.
And then it happened, and I was so satisfied.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to see a character die so much in my life.
I love when movies do stuff like that, where obviously that's kind of like the opening scene to this one is that the noose around the neck, dragging that whole thing. So when it happens to the people it deserves to happen to, it is so
rewarding.
Yes.
Well, and not only that, but when she burns Jasper in the crematorium,
and the general
was just
burns them both.
It was so satisfying.
It was too good.
Well, and let's be real, that scene is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, when she walks away holding that torch and everything's on fire behind her, and she's fucking Lady Liberty up in this bitch. That was just so perfect. And then even when she's kind of on the horse riding through everybody, and it's kind of slow-mo, and she's doing a whole lot of turns, and her hair's it was just so, it was so pretty.
It was good. It was very finally.
For this to be a thriller-ish movie, it did have a lot of really pretty shots and scenes and things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I made a note, whenever she's planning to steal his phone, obviously she's mapped how she can walk around this cabin because it creaks.
Yeah.
I just put, God bless her yoga instructor.
Yes.
So that was some foreshadowing, she has her yoga instructor over or whatever, and then you obviously she puts it to use later.
When she does that spider walk out of the bed.
Yes, I was like, God damn, girl. Like,
did you say The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I would have taken one step off that bed and the whole place would have shook. Like, I don't know that I would have the patience. And she carved
her family.
Well,
and the airplane
that her little girl drew.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
She carved it into like her. I guess it was her bed or a piece of furniture or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, daggers.
Which, of course, we also see her, like, not at the very end, but we also see the plane. That's one of our indicators that
when
it's
they're
like
picking cotton.
Modern day is when
Yes.
they're like picking cotton and they look up and you see like the plane going
flying
over.
overhead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you find out, too, that Eli was actually a professor.
Yes.
And so that's why I talked about earlier.
Intellectuals.
It was like they were, targeting high-profile, like, very intellectual men and women. And then when Elizabeth kept saying,
she didn't
you
want
think you're
her.
better than us.
Yeah.
Bitch, she is.
Well, and then it's kind of like when you think about that part of it, it's like the high profile stuff and all that. Because I was actually watching it kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, this would actually kind of be interesting to like get a little bit more of like Eli's story. Because we didn't learn much about his wife before. So like...
We don't learn that he's a professor until he dies.
Right. So, I mean, I would honestly be interested to know a little bit.
Else.
Yeah, like some of these other people.
Well, even somebody like Julia.
Yeah.
I almost felt like just the way that she was, I was like, I could totally see her being some like high profile PR person. Like, I don't know. That's just, I got that vibe from her.
Well, and when she talks to Veronica, she makes that comment about like, you're like me. I know that you're like me or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of like a little bit of a, okay, so what do you do? Like,
yeah. Well, and that was another hint, right? Because she says, I know you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess if you're watching it for the first time, you're just like, okay, they've seen each other before.
Yeah.
Maybe they lived in the same town or something. I don't know. But me, I'm like, oh my God, you just don't pick up on that stuff until you watch it a second time.
Well, I think they say that. One of them says, I'm from North Carolina, you're from Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is, Julia, when she goes to her cabin, she says, I know you. Like, she knows who she is because Veronica's essentially, I won't say she's famous, but she has some notoriety. People know who she is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize that Elizabeth was the general's daughter until the very end of the movie.
I didn't either.
I mean, and this was, again, after, obviously I've seen it before, but I don't even remember that. Like, Jasper, yes, we knew about Jasper or whatever, but I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't piece that together. And then I'm like, well, it would make sense. It's like a family-run fuck show is what it is.
So now that we kind of, like, we've spilled the twist, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is a Civil War reenactment, and on that sign, it literally says that, like, you can buy your tickets, like, on Apple Pay, whatever. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, you mean to tell me that all these people can come up in here and don't think that this is, like, a little weird?
Do
you think that they were allowed all the way back? Because I think they were just allowed in that front part.
The reenactment of the war.
Yeah,
the fighting.
That's how I took it.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because, like, they're not going to let them come back there and have all these, like, quote unquote slaves be help us, like, because obviously that's what would happen. But
yeah, and then what are you going to do? Kill them in front of these people, random people?
Well, they'd probably play it off as, oh, they're just playing a part.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they would take them back that far. Because it did seem like there was quite a bit of land in between the battlefield and the actual plantation, right?
Yeah. No, there was definitely a lot of forest.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you see, too, where it says the sign Antebellum. Yeah. It's owned by Blake Denton, BD, which is the branding.
And the lapel pin. Yeah.
And is he like some like a politician?
I saw in the back it said re-election.
Yes.
Or something.
Was a politician.
Yes.
Because when
At the very end, there was a sign, a big poster, a banner, or something on the back building.
Oh, well, when they kidnap her in the car.
Oh, did you see
it's
something
on
then?
a building.
I
Like
didn't
when
see
they
that.
turn the corner with her in the car, there's a big Blake Denton or whatever his name was. Was it Blake?
Yeah,
Blake
did.
Like on the side of like a brick wall.
Oh my god!
Oh, I didn't see
even
that.
pick up on
I just caught
But
the
I
banner at the
didn't
end of the
know
movie.
like
You were just thinking. It's
yeah,
just a sign.
I saw it, but I didn't know anything.
They were very good about planting little seeds and
They
things
were.
in this movie.
It was a very well done movie,
Yeah.
and then I love the ending shot where they're literally tearing down the sign.
Right.
Like that was my favorite.
Raising it, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So I just want to know, like, what did you like in the moment, like when you were watching it and you realized, oh my god, this is like for real happening. Like what? I just like, what did you? Were you shook?
I was shook, and I was like, I don't know how someone could get away with that.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I just with everything, the technology that there is, I'm like,
Well,
They
I
didn't
was
even
like,
allow. They really didn't allow even them to have their cell phones.
but because who he was,
He had a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it just makes me wonder if they threw that little politician nugget in there because that could be a way for him to get away with things that normal people
Wouldn't be able
probably
to.
would not be able to.
yeah.
But I mean, also like what size town is this?
Well, it's
I feel like
supposed
it's
to-
out in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's in Louisiana, but it's probably somewhere in the like middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I just don't.
I mean, that's a lot of property.
yeah.
You would think it's. I mean, it's. You watch it, like you said, you would almost think it's a village. Like it's a lot of property. So, I don't know.
Well, it's a plantation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were.
Big, yeah.
They were big. They had slave quarters, like all that stuff. So, I mean, kudos to them. They did a good job of making me feel like it was real. Like
Yeah.
that was the whole point, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there was just nothing more satisfying than watching her like get the fuck out. Like it was so, and I mean, when she was like fighting Elizabeth, I was nervous for a second.
Well, yeah. Well, at one point, Elizabeth has like a knife or something. It goes in her, not all
She
the
gets
way, but a
stabbed,
little
yeah.
bit.
But just to see her like throw that noose around her neck and just yank, I was like, "Get that bitch!" I was literally, I think I actually have in my notes. I was like, as soon as it started, I was like yelling at the TV. I was like, "Yes, bitch, get her!" Like
Right.
I
I was satisfied with her being pulled behind the horse,
Yes,
but her
me too.
hitting her head on that
Robert E.
monument
Lee.
was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah. I literally have in
Breaking
my
her neck.
notes, drag that bitch.
Well, and did you notice that like Janelle's wearing that jacket that he holds up?
Oh, he's worn
Yeah,
the
it's like
Yankee
it's
jacket.
Yeah, the Yank jacket.
It's like
That he says like, "This is the jacket that the Yanks wore. It's our symbol of like winning or whatever." And here she is like,
They do a lot of little touches like that because Jena, Elizabeth, breaks her neck on Robert E. Lee's monument, who's the big Confederate general. So
Yeah.
it was just, I mean, it's definitely really well done.
Yeah.
Obviously liked this much more than The Village.
definitely.
So as far as like there's not really a whole lot of like, things to know for this movie, but obviously this movie did come out during the pandemic and it was slated to be a pretty large opening at theaters, and obviously that didn't happen because it came out in 2020. So they, I'm pretty sure, like, I think you said it only brought in what?
Yeah, like 7.9 million or something.
And then we don't really know exactly what the budget was, but I feel like it probably would have done a lot better if it didn't go direct to streaming. I think this actually might have been one of the first
To be
direct
released.
to stream.
Oh, was it?
Because I remember it
Maybe.
streaming for a hot minute, and then you couldn't
find
then they
it.
took it down. So
Yeah.
I ended up buying a copy because it was so good.
Because I'm almost certain when I was kind of looking this stuff up that I think it said it was one of the
I
first.
almost feel like it streamed on Hulu.
It was on Hulu for a long time because that was where I thought I was going to watch it, and it wasn't on there anymore. So, but some just little kind of fun little tidbits. A lot of people thought that this movie was like Jordan Peele movie, like when it first came out, because of like they marketed it as like, from the producers of Get Out and Us or whatever.
They love to do that.
People don't realize that there are like 30 producers on the movie. Like,
Oh, right, exactly. But you associate with, the biggest name, I guess. And then, so the directors actually acquired the lenses, this is kind of funny because when I first started the movie, I was like, oh, this kind of giving me like some Gone with the Wind vibes, like just the plantation and whatever. But apparently it says they actually acquired the lenses used to shoot Gone with the Wind in order to create the same feel of that movie, but at the same time correct it by showing a more accurate depiction of the antebellum period.
Oh, so that's cool.
And then, so there was a lot of quotes and things from the directors, like I guess probably from interviews and things. But one of the things talks about the lipstick imagery and says, which goes pretty unexplained in the film, but was intended to be a metaphor for the relationship between white and black women. And the director was quoted saying, the reason that we put it into the movie is we wanted to demonstrate how, and I want to say this in the most diplomatic way possible, but how there's a certain faction or brand of white woman that covets the black woman and wants possession of what she has. And I think when you think about Elizabeth, it's that kind of fits.
Yeah,
it does.
Fits that. They also refer to Blake. Of course, I guess we don't really get his name because that probably would have been a dead giveaway when you're seeing BD and whatever.
Yeah.
So they refer to him as him a lot, or the general, but he also did that because he didn't want that character to have a name because he was such a terrible person.
Oh, wow.
So
that's why they never use it in the movie. Okay, that's interesting.
But yeah, other than that, that was
And he is a terrible person.
he is. I have a little trivia.
Okay.
I would like to know what happened. I was telling Keith this yesterday when this movie came out in 2020. Waxworks put a pre-order up for this score for this movie. A year later, they took it down. No fanfare, didn't say a damn word. I emailed them. I said, what's going on with this? And they're like, we canceled it.
Oh.
So I'd like to know what happened. Waxworks, if you're listening, why didn't you put this out?
Yeah. If you're one of our tens of listeners, I liked the score.
Yeah, it was a good score.
It was a good score. I don't know. That is weird.
Yeah.
I'm sure it had something to do with licensing or...
I'm sure the pandemic, they blame it on production issues or something.
I mean, it could be out on a ship in the middle of the ocean that never made it to the States.
It could be.
So,
I've never seen Waxworks.
We had a lot of shipping problems.
We did. Oh, releasing tomorrow, Antebellum on vinyl. Purple and wine colored.
Red and black
swirl.
Yeah.
With white splatter. There we go.
Anyway. Is it time for everybody's favorite segment?
Not my favorite segment.
Not your favorite segment. The listeners. I really am curious. I feel like most of y'all listen to this, fast forward, listen to Horror Fright Theater, and then call it a day.
Probably.
And we respect that.
I mean, I do that when I listen to it. I'm not even... When Michael sends these out and he's like, hey, make sure this sounds good, I only listen to Horror Fright Theater and I listen for the sound bite at the very end to make sure it's placed. And
exactly where Keith wants it.
That's the only thing I
because
listen
if
to.
I don't, I hear about it.
Yeah.
You need to move that back a little bit. No, you need to move that forward a little bit.
Yeah. I guess it just falls on me to listen to the rest of it
I
and
don't
be like
listening to myself. It is cringeworthy.
Well, I don't think anyone does, but yes,
it's cringeworthy. So I'm really excited to see what scene we're doing because I want to see if I'm right or not.
Well, I mean, we can go ahead and just settle the score on this. You are right.
I knew it.
But in my defense, outside of this being like one of the best scenes, I think it's hysterical. But it's also like there wasn't a whole lot of like.
There's a lot of like dialogue between two people,
right?
And this one's three.
And
yeah.
And this was the only scene I had that like had the three, obviously the three, but then there's also a few other little kind of pieces to it that kind of come into play.
Can we guess who we are? Keith had an idea who he thought he was going to be,
and
who you were going to be.
Gabourey, Sidibe. I already know.
Well, so I knew I was never going to give Dawn to him because she has too many lines, and
he said I was probably going to be Elizabeth.
Is that Gabourey? Is that Gabourey?
Yes.
I think you're Gabourey. I think I'm Janelle, and I think
you think I'm the white girl?
The white girl.
Oh, well, you're right.
Well, there you go.
Y'all, I am too damn good.
But
I just know you way too well.
that's really true though. But So, little
Are there
disclaimer.
other people in there too?
There is.
Okay.
So, it actually kind of worked out, though, because there's the hostess, there's a waiter.
The hostess has lines?
Well, just when she comes in.
Oh, okay.
So, that's what I'm saying. So, like, the other lines we have are not very much.
Okay.
But, so yeah. Obviously, like you said, you're Veronica. I'm Dawn.
I'm that boss-ass bitch.
Yeah. And then you're Sarah.
That was her name.
That was her name.
We're just like white girl.
But then hostess is going to be you,
Okay.
Keith, because people on here can't see me. Waiter server is going to be me, and then you are actually going to be the admirer that comes up to talk to.
Oh god. Well, I don't have much lines there.
No.
But you just
Yeah.
educate me.
But now, before we dive into this, these scripts that we find are not exactly like what you're hearing in the movie, which is a little disappointing, especially for this scene. Although, as I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, so basically, Gabby I bet she like improv'd so much of her like dialogue in this scene,
May have.
because I feel like she could do that. Like, I feel like her humor is probably really like quick with it, because some of the dialogue you'll see it when you start reading through it. You'll be like,
But shooting scripts are always a little different than an original script, and then, like you said, people do ad lib and they add things and whatever,
right.
So.
But yeah, so here you go. I'll continue my little trend of being the one that the narrator.
Okay.
So we're gonna start with the interior, the black SUV en route to restaurant, but it is gonna go through that restaurant scene. So
Okay. I'm excited.
all right. So
Damn, Don, you got some fucking monologues in this bitch.
I know, but
I
knew
knew it. I cannot, y'all. I can hear him doing it right now already. Let's go.
So in the car, Veronica's seated by the door, Dawn in the middle, and Sarah on the other side. Veronica has herself positioned so that she has some privacy while texting. Dawn and Sarah are talking about where they're going later while Veronica texts. Incoming text from her boyfriend, destined to be a champion just like her mother. Veronica texts a heart emoji. Bae texts back, you in them streets. Veronica texts, yep. Bae text, you looking sexy. Veronica texts, yep. Bae text, you got the titties out.
Oh.
Veronica gives a little laugh, which shifts Dawn's attention. Who is that?
You know it's Nick.
Before Veronica engages with Dawn, she types a simple yup with a kiss emoji. While typing, Dawn's peeping her screen and lets out a little shriek. Ooh! You see? This is what I'm talking about. This is how it's supposed to be. No jealousy, no fear on each other's team. A case study, you two. Ugh, sickening, just sickening. Where are all the Nicks? Why do they escape me? Why do you hide?
Oh, stop.
Excuse me, what is happening?
Before Veronica can click her phone off, Dawn grabs it playfully to show to Sarah.
Oh, and here I thought marital bliss was an oxymoron.
She laughs as we see the SUV slow down and see the entry to the restaurant outside the window. Veronica has her phone back and is texting. Veronica texts, I almost forgot. Thank you for the flowers emoji. Thank you for the flowers, babe. Heart. Nick is texting back as indicated by the animated bubbles. The Uber driver comes around to open the door. As Veronica's getting out of the car, Nick responds, huh? Would love to take credit, must be from one of your many admirers. Veronica has a look of confusion on her face and is just about to text a reply when Dawn rests her hand on Veronica's shoulder as they approach the restaurant's entrance. Let's live in the present, girl. Veronica, while still confused, complies and puts her phone away as the girls enter the restaurant. The hostess greets them with a plastered smile at the podium.
Henley, for 3, please.
Yes, we have your table. Follow me.
The hostess leads the trio through the half-filled restaurant to the other side near the back. She stops at the last table directly next to the bathroom entrance.
Have a lovely dinner.
No.
What my friend is trying to say.
Oh, no. I got this. Excuse me, Becky. This is simply unacceptable. But I think you already know that. I'm going to go into a back and forth as to why you think this is okay. But we're taking that table right over there. Thank you so much, sweetie. Pats her on the shoulder as they make their way toward the prime table in the center of the restaurant. The women settle into their table as the waiter immediately comes by to introduce himself.
I sounded like a hostess from, like, I don't know.
Tales from the Crypt?
Yeah, the Addams Family House.
I got Jennifer Tilly vibes.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Sam. May I start you ladies off with a cocktail this evening? Dawn pipes right up without consulting the table. We'll take a bottle of champagne, please. We're celebrating. Lovely. How about a nice bottle of Prosecco? Veronica snaps the wine list shut with a purposeful clap.
We'll take a bottle of the 2003
Krug.
I'll take a Pepsi, please. Thank you.
The restaurant's dimly lit with one small light in the center of each table. There's a sexy vibe in the space, and most patrons match the vibe. Veronica, Dawn, and Sarah are now seated at a prime table in the middle of the room. We enter mid-conversation.
Any app prospects for the evening?
I am glad you asked. As a matter of fact, I've been setting up a time to meet with a man named Justin. He is dark chocolate, of course, about 72% cacao, I would say, and he has a friend.
And by friend, you mean?
Awful. Probably awful.
Exactly, horrible.
No. I'm sure he is just as fine.
Wait, I'm sure? So you mean you haven't seen him? Nope, this is not going... Nope. This is not a thing that is going to happen. I am too grown.
Oh, okay, you grown. I don't have to meet up with him tonight. Let's just go have some fun.
Girls, did you notice that guy at the bar? He won't stop looking at us.
The waiter arrives at the table. Before I take your order, I just wanted to let you know that the gentleman over there sent this drink specifically for you. The women turn their attention toward Dawn's now familiar admirer, who's looking at their table from under the bar's mounted television. On the screen, we notice a politician who looks, eerily similar to him. There's a little nugget that I didn't notice when we were watching. Being interviewed on CNN. The Senator Dunn proposes bill to preserve Confederate monuments on federal lands. Interesting. I wonder if that's actually in it, or if this is like...
Well, it makes me think he was in on it, and he was going to try to get Gabby.
Right.
Okay.
The admirer makes his way over to the table as the server leaves to let him have his moment. The stranger's tall, white... Svelte. Clean cut and quite handsome, with a full head of luxurious black hair and piercing blue eyes. That's a lot of description for somebody that we barely even got to see.
I've had my eye on you. I just had to come by to tell you that I think you are quite stunning.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, thank you very much. Might I say that you are quite fine yourself. However, I think I would be doing you a disservice if I did not help you to critique your game just a little bit. Veronica and Sarah become visibly awkward, shifting in their chairs, unable to look directly at the situation, but we can tell that this has happened before. First, thank you for the drink. Second, you are fine as hell, and because of that, you are forgiven. However, I think you can see from across the room that we are drinking champagne. I am a champagne lady. We are champagne ladies. While the gesture is very much welcomed, a vodka cran, shows a lack of appreciation of the situation. Admirer looks around uncomfortably. The other women are equally as uncomfortable. Veronica glances a few tables over and spots a woman facing the opposite direction ordering from the waiter. We notice her long strawberry blonde hair distracting Veronica from the interaction happening at her own table. We enter back into Dawn's conversation. Further, you see I'm here with these lovely ladies. Did you intend to have them feel left out? Here is what should have happened. Ask our server what type of champagne we're drinking. Send us another bottle of that. Make eye contact with me from across the room. Hell, maybe even a little eye fuck. Then make your way over and introduce yourself. The admirer is growing increasingly deflated and uncomfortable. I say all of that to say this. Here's my card. Hands him her card, which she had ready. Thank you for the drink. I like you. You're quite fine. This can happen, but not tonight. Text me. Slightly confused but happy, the admirer slowly makes his way back to the table as all the women watch. Veronica shifts her focus back to the woman a few tables away. The woman turns her head as she laughs with her table mate, inadvertently making eye contact with Veronica. It's not Elizabeth. Veronica breathes a sigh of relief and brings her attention back to her own table. Veronica and Sarah share a look with each other and then back toward Dawn. What he needed to know.
Can we all just take a moment to acknowledge that he was supernaturally fine?
End scene. We're gonna we're stopping it there.
Oh.
Well, because it cuts off.
Okay.
I'm not going to go down to
I got
that.
you.
That's why I did the little squiggly.
I got
That
you.
was my
Oh,
indicator.
I had one more line. I mean, I had 2 lines. At least I got to be the pretty one.
I got to be the overly confident.
You
That
literally
is
got to be who
interesting.
you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like,
It makes me think that they were going to try to set her
To take her.
and then when she came back with all this, he was like, "No, she's too smart. Like, she's gonna."
okay, well, first of all, can you imagine?
She'd empower him.
She'd put
Yeah.
up a fight.
Like, she would not be going without a fight.
No, she would definitely. She would. Oh,
She would be the Oprah Winfrey
yeah.
in The Color Purple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She would.
Very much.
It's time for our final finger-licking thoughts. Here at Horror Friday, we rate our films using the heat scale of that hot fit. Yep. Okay. I'm starting over. All right, it's time for our final. And good night. Okay. All right. All right, it is time for our final.
Oh, these bloopers.
Y'all, it was good. I liked it at the end. All right, it's time
He
for...
is bushwhacked.
Michael, you okay?
It was just funny.
It wasn't funny. Okay, it's time for our final thoughts. Our final finger-licking thoughts. Okay. Michael!
Sorry.
Yeah, he is crying. It's time for our final finger-licking thoughts. Here at Horror Friday, we rate our films using the heat scale of Nashville's famous hot chicken, which we just had a little bit earlier. On a scale of 1 to 5, no spice, mild, medium, hot, and Nashville hot. Michael, have you calmed down enough to share
I
your
think
final
so.
thoughts with us?
Oh, I don't know. This was a hard one for me. I think I'm going to have to go with medium.
Oh.
Oh, I shocked you
Get out.
both.
Oh,
I think I'm going to have to go with medium. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again.
Get out.
I don't think it was perfect,
Right now.
and it definitely wasn't
The
bad.
end of you. So a medium, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Mike?
I mean, I'm very surprised, actually. I was actually leaning more towards somewhere between hot and Nashville hot. Like, I feel like I just don't know. I can't pinpoint why I wouldn't give it a Nashville hot.
Uh-huh.
But there's just something that makes me not tip it over there. So I guess I would say I'm a solid hot, but I definitely did enjoy it. I would absolutely watch it again. I thought Janelle was fantastic. The acting in general was
Everybody did
all
a
really
good
well.
job, yeah.
Like, I mean, I can't complain about any of that. It was just like, I don't know. I have issues with like these kinds of twists and things, like, but that's here nor there. So, I mean, same thing with The Village. They didn't do it for me. Like, I almost wish it just actually was a time period piece and didn't have the twist. Like, I would rather it be something set in like that antebellum period, and then we just kind of like see her be a badass bitch in that like time period. Mm-hmm. So but that's just me. I know a lot of people are not the same when it comes to that. So maybe that's why I can't give it a Nashville hot. Mm-hmm. So I'm a hot. Mm-hmm. I'm hot.
I'm hot. So I agree with Mike. I would give this a very hot. I would give it a hot. I really liked it. Again, the cast was really good. It had like just enough humor there in the middle to like kind of like lighten things up a little bit before it gets serious again. Beautifully shot. And I almost feel like maybe that's why I didn't go Nashville hot, because it's almost too pretty to watch, and I feel like it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? But I still really thought it was the prettiest movie we've watched. I liked the lighting. I loved all the colors. I loved the angles. I loved filming from a doorway and the windows. And Janelle Monáe is fucking beautiful. and Eli was fine, and it's just a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I like the story. Jenna Malone is such a bitch. Like, such a bitch. I feel like I know a lot of people like that in the South. But don't get me started on it.
Right. I literally am from a town where they do these stupid-ass war reenactments. So I get it.
Read a book. Let's go fire some blanks and blow up something. No, I'm good. Anything else before we go?
Nope.
I got nothing.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and rate the Horror Fried Podcast. And you can catch up on all of our previous episodes on your favorite streaming service. Links are available on our Instagram page. Join us next time. Oh my God, next time.
Our last episode.
Well, not our season finale,
Movie.
because we are going to have a wrap-up episode.
Yes.
But join us next time for our final movie review, where we take a trip to Texas and review the most recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel, remake. I don't really know,
But we'll discuss it.
Yes.
but we will, and we'll let you know what we think. Now it's time to swap, spit, and hit the road. Until next time, remember, there's not a pot too crooked that a lid won't fit. Be well.
Bye.
Namaste.
Godspeed. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. You're doing great.